local hope dealer. Inspiration and dedication. I came a long way from sleeping in them cages. I got my life back, I feel amazing. Life's a book, don't get stuck on sad pages. Rainy days with no money. Hard work leads to days that are sunny. Looking back, it was all needed. The problems, the pain, the trauma, the grieving. You are now tuned in to the prisoner to painter. Prisoner to painter. Hard work, dedication. Rainy days, inspiration. Prisoner to painter. And now, a word from your local hope dealer.
Like kind of gives them like a little more inside, like, you know, they're like, oh, we're kind of part of this, or you know what I mean? They see a different side of it.
Well, and I've noticed, which I'm still inviting on, like my pastor coming on next week, and then I have like, you know, bigger businessmen, but people like stories like yours and stories like people just like this more. So I'm trying to actively lead.
They love the underdog.
Gotcha.
Everybody loves the underdog.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Like it gives a lot of hope, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
On that note, we are live on every platform.
Welcome to the Prisoner to Painter podcast. I'm Nathan McDermott.
And I'm Kate McDermott.
And today joining us is Melinda Jordon.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're good. Thank you for coming on.
For sure.
It's always the first couple minutes are always odd for me. I just getting adjusted, but
Anxiety.
It's a little awkward.
yeah,
I'm feeling it.
and then especially you know, we're gonna try something different today. We're going off script. I think we are good enough to not go down the line. I think we'll be more organic. And Katie's gonna take the lead on that one.
So we have been also switching it up. Where would you say that your story started?
Oh my goodness, where did my story start? Man, that is a tough question. So I mean, if we want to talk strictly about you know, where I began, like my work and all of that, it would have been, I was 38 years old. I was a heavy drinker at that time. I had just been taken off of methadone during the beginning of the opioid crisis, where doctors were overprescribing, and so doctors were like pulling people off of meds. My doctor had me on methadone for back pain. I had been on it for like 12 years. And so he cut me down like really rapidly. And so I just started drinking like a fish to, you know, mitigate the withdrawals from that. So, so I was drinking really heavily and driving around quite often. Actually, a blackout, I could drive, you know, just nonsense, just really messy. And so that's really where it began for me, because one afternoon I was driving completely obliterated, no business being behind the wheel. I do not condone that, by the way. Very, very terrible idea. I'm just saying this to say that that was the catalyst for me. So I got pulled over, or I didn't get pulled over. I got into an altercation with another driver, and then the cops ended up showing up at my house and taking me to jail for a DUI. I got assaulted a police officer during that time, which I barely remember. I got taken to jail, sat in jail for a little bit, and then I got into recovery court. And I did all right in recovery court. I went to treatment. I went to 2 treatments during that time because I had a couple slip-ups. After my second treatment, I got out and I had another slip-up. And so then I actually went to jail, got like dismissed from recovery court and off of probation and everything. And so I sat in jail for 5 months. And that's really where I had, like I'd built enough recovery capital and enough, you know, things that I really could sit in there and think. Clear of mind. I did a lot of meditation. You know, 5 months is a decent amount of time. Within that 5 months, I missed my daughter's 16th birthday. You know, all of the holidays. So it was like October to March, and so just all the holidays. Mainly, it was like, you know, my daughter's birthday was horrifying to miss that because it was such a big one. You know, the 16th, you can't get that back. So, you know, that was really, really painful. It put a lot of things into perspective for me, and I knew, you know, it was go time. Like either I was going to get my stuff together, or I was just going to keep spiraling and just, you know, who knows, you know what I mean? And with the way the substances are on the streets these days, with everything that's being put into them, I mean, I probably would be dead, you know.
So you said it was for your back that you
Yes.
prescribed stuff.
Yes.
Was there something that happened that?
There was no real like catalyst for that. I was born with scoliosis. I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease when I was about 19. I got really heavy when I was pregnant with my son. I had my son when I was 18, and I gained a lot of weight during that. So I think that did not help my back any. And so that's when the pain really started to happen. And so then it was like Vicodin and then Percocet, and then, it graduated into eventually the methadone pills for pain. So yeah, that's kind of how that went.
Yeah, my mom was put on morphine, and they just yanked. During that time, they just yanked right off.
Yeah.
And she had no addiction by any means, but it definitely puts a strain on you.
Yeah.
I mean, being on something for 12 years and then done.
Yeah.
To deal with it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Where's the harm reduction there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you were on them for 12 years and you said that they started weaning you off of them. Did you experience a lot of withdrawal?
Yeah, I definitely did. It was very uncomfortable. I mean, I didn't take them responsibly anyways. I mean, I was, I had full-blown addiction. I was doing other substances as well. I just want to put that in there. I don't want to make it sound like it was just these pills and it was all my doctor's fault. I definitely have, substance use disorder. So, I did a lot of things. I would, run out of them. And so then I would be sick for, and so it was really, really like that. And then I was just out of them and it was like terrifying. So the only thing I really could get my hands on was alcohol. I'd never been a drinker really, but I mean, substance is a substance when you're that deep in it, just trying to stay comfortable and not feel the withdrawal and not feel all the things that you've been kind of like hiding or trying to push down or not feel with the substances anyways.
So you said you did some street stuff. Was it like right off rip, or was there like a gradual process to that led you to that?
Yeah. So I mean, it was just really in the beginning, like in my 20s, it would like experimentation, like at parties or social situations, going to the club, that kind of thing. So I would, I did like cocaine for a little while in my 20s. That wasn't really my thing. I did, MDMA for a little while, whole club scene, whole dancing and stuff. Yeah. Right. Who hasn't done that? And then so I actually got into smoking crack for about 10 years off and on pretty heavily. That was really, really hard. It really, really, really was depressing. It was like, you don't want to do something, but then it's there and then you continue to do it. And it's like just this internal battle, this just horrible fight that you keep going through for sure.
Well, just getting into recovery court, I can speak from experience that has saved my life.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing how the process of getting in was? So you're in jail. I mean, how did you get accepted into recovery court, I guess?
Sure. So I had already had 2 felonies that were drug related from my early 20s. And so I was really looking at prison time.
Yeah.
And so my dad had actually got me a lawyer, and the lawyer who's passed on, I can't remember his name. Gosh, I feel terrible. Really good guy. But he brought it up to me, brought me the packet. So I filled that out and then we turned it in, and then I heard word back that, I was accepted in. Cool. And then before I actually got sentenced, to recovery court, I was still drinking, just, going through that whole mess and going to the hospital. I had pancreatitis, colitis, the elevated liver enzymes, and then leaving there AMA and getting alcohol on the way home. So it was just a real disaster.
Yeah.
And then the last time I went to the hospital, I went through Access, and then I went right from the hospital to Allegiance, to the detox. Stayed there for about 21 days, and then went to Glass House in Lansing. Awesome. Did 67 days there. During that time, I would come down to treatment court. Participate in that.
I think we went through it at the same time. I was a kid, but I faintly remember you.
Okay.
I think that is why I asked. So was BB the judge at the time?
Yeah,
okay.
She was. Yeah, wonderful lady.
Yeah, she is. I've been bugging her to come on, but she's not interested.
Did you have the same judge for all of your court dealings?
Gosh, it was so long ago. I'm aging, so my memory a little bit. I think once you get into treatment court, isn't it just BB? Yeah. I can't remember who I saw initially. I don't know if I went to court before, because I was, I had the lawyer, and so I don't know if I ended up going in before another judge before I got accepted in treatment program. I can't remember that part.
Yeah, see, I went from Goosery to Thomas, and Thomas was like, dude, you are not meant for this, and he sent me over to recovery court. So,
nice.
So not trying to jump back and forth, but I can speak from experience. How was it waking up in jail, not knowing what you did the night before?
So that was I had actually gotten maced too. So
Oh,
that
geez.
kind of sobered me up a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, so by that time, so I didn't wake up in jail, not room. So I like
Oh, wow.
once I got there, I was still being just really like out of sorts and belligerent, and I ended up getting maced. So or pepper sprayed or whatever it is. I'm just miserable. And so in that moment, I am very humbled and I'm like, I'm so sorry. You know, you can imagine it was just miserable.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was just really I mean, it didn't stop me ultimately. You know, I still went back out and drank, and it wasn't until, you know, all of the things after that stopped me. But yeah, just a miserable experience. It is embarrassing. I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, I'm grateful for it because it's what got me to where I am today. But I think it just seems like an entirely different person because that's not a way that I would normally conduct myself. Those are not things that I would do, you know, normally. So it's I don't want to say embarrassing because I don't like to like carry that shame or guilt, but you know, just thinking about it, I was like, wow, that's just it's really unsavory. Yeah, not my finest moment. We'll say that.
Yeah, we try to start there just because, well, it shows the success. It amplifies the success part because you can see where you go from to where you are now. It's like, holy shoot, you know. So that's why we touch base on that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the main part of, and you're in recovery, so yeah, I think you'll get the gist of. We try to do. I got the idea. AA saved my life, and AA might not save everybody's life, but they say what it was like, what happened was. So that's kind of how I run this, and so the idea was, if AA helps people behind those walls, now how do I help the world? Without, you know, instead of keeping it behind four walls.
Sure.
And without being, I can't say that word, animated.
Yeah. So they get accepted in the recovery court. I don't know if I could say names, but I'm going to. Newell
Yes.
probably,
Yeah.
he was such a great guy.
Yeah. Wonderful.
How was so for me, I get out of jail, I go to recovery court, they just turned me loose in the world. So did they send you right to rehab?
Yeah. So well, from the hospital, I went from Washington, or it used to be Washington. Yeah. It's always going to be Washington. So I went from there to Glass House, and so then it wasn't until like 2.5 months later that I came home and was in the world.
Cool.
So so I did have that time of like being completely away and completely safe from any substances.
Well, going in the right direction. What choice of recovery did you have at the beginning? 12-step, faith-based?
So it was pretty much like mandatory that we would do 12-step meetings. And so that's where I started, which was a really great jumping point. I mean, it was nice to be around a lot of folks who had similar stories, who understood there was really no judgment, you know, and so that was a really good jumping point for me. A little bit, you know, later on when I got a little stronger in my recovery, I decided to step away from the meetings. It just really wasn't the pathway that I wanted to take. I dove deep into my spirituality. So I was really like, you know, practicing mindfulness, and I meditate a lot. So that really has been my my pathway, I guess. My spirituality takes the forefront in that. And then of course, like my support system. I have a wonderful, amazing man in my life. Great friends, you know, just really supportive people that they're like sounding boards that I can go to for anything. And so, yeah, it's really nice. So that's really like, you know, my little community and then my spirituality. But I mean, AA and NA definitely gave me a really good start for sure.
Did you always have like that support system, or was that something that you built on the way?
I did not always have that support system. So my kid's dad, we started dating when I was 15. So we were in high school. We got married at 20. I was 20. And I didn't work. He worked. I just stayed home with the kids. And I just, you know, I didn't realize that at the time, but looking back at it now, I just wasn't feeling fulfilled, like self-fulfilled. And so that created a lot of issues in our relationship. And so it became like a very toxic relationship. We ended up using together. And so it just didn't go well. I didn't have a lot of friends outside of like, you know, him and like, you know, his family. I just wasn't able, you know, using a lot of substances, being depressed, you know, all of the things, wasn't able to really find my way and like find those people, find my tribe until after I got my stuff together. So my life really didn't start until I was like 38 years old. But I don't really love saying that just because of my babies, you know what I mean? I love them to pieces, and I give credit to everything that I've been through and all of the things, right? So yeah.
And I know we jump back and forth a lot, but questions arise. and I'm nosy.
Sure.
You
You got a podcast.
I'm nosy.
Yeah.
Do you guys co-parent well now? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything's amicable. We get along better than we ever did. So I mean, it's really nice, definitely.
It's funny. Some people, and speaking from experience, it seems like some people get along better not being together.
Yeah,
like better
absolutely.
friends and
Yeah, we made each other miserable for a long time, and so we were just like, we don't want to do this to each other anymore. So it was just time, and we were able to part ways amicably, and definitely co-parent well. Our kids are adults now. My son, our son is 27. Our daughter is 21. So
deal with it if you don't want to.
Yeah.
So, when you were going through recovery court, what type of probation did they put you on? Were you on like HIDA? Like,
no. So I think I like suspended. I think that's what they called it. So as long as I completed recovery court, which I mentioned I did not. So I did get that felony of the assaulting police officer. So now I have 3 felonies, but hasn't stopped me. You know what I mean? From creating the life that I live today and moving forward. So yeah, I mean, it was just like a completing treatment court. And then, if I did that, then I wouldn't, it was suspended, and if I didn't, then I wouldn't get the charge. So.
Has there ever been any times where the felonies have impeded you?
Oh yeah. Sure.
Do you have like any advice for people who go through the same thing?
Gosh, I mean, so what I usually do when I'm applying for a position, I mean, I do stay in the substance use field, and one, because I love what I do, and 2, because it's a little bit more, accepting.
Yeah.
And a lot of times desirable, right, for the positions that we apply for. But there are lots of places out there that will hire you with felonies. For me, I really, when I'm applying, I don't bring it up right away. I'll wait until, do you like me first before I tell you, right? Like, so any interview is like selling yourself first, right? Do you like me? Am I good fit for the position? Okay, I get the offer. By the way, you're going to see some stuff on my background.
Yep.
So sometimes that's okay, and sometimes it's not. I did get a job offer from University of Michigan for the addiction consult team. But they have the licensing and regulatory affairs, and so Laura is like, no, you cannot work here. So that sucks. But I mean, it is what it is. Like right after that, I got into this management position for home integration, for the harm reduction program. So I mean, everything just really happens the way it's supposed to. And yeah.
So I don't know which president passed it, because I keep politics very well out of it. But you can now expunge more than 1 felony. Do you ever plan on getting yours expunged?
So I definitely want to look at that. I'm not sure with the one being a violent crime if it would be able to be expunged. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't started the process. I think it has to be like 7 years.
Yeah.
So I think I'm getting to that point where I can have it looked at. So 2 of them would be. So I have a possession of cocaine less than 25 grams and a delivery of MDMA from like a million years ago, like over 25 years ago. So those ones I'm sure will get expunged. It's the last one that I got that I'm not sure.
There is an expungement fair coming up.
Yeah.
I've
I love those coming up. I'm always sharing those with clients.
I'm running into the same problem. I passed recovery court flying colors, and I get on probation. I was on lifetime probation. The last
he had 2 months.
The 4th year, I fail. I get another DUI. But the cops beat my ass, so they dropped the DUI. But my probation officer finds out.
Yeah.
So my felonies are fresh because same thing.
Yeah.
They didn't hit until I failed. So,
They hit about 2021.
so it says I'm a fresh felon,
Right.
even though my felonies were 2017.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm coming across the same
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
You just,
It's rough.
It
It's but it is what it is. Right?
But then when you get to talk face to face, like you said, once you like me, it's like, hey, these actually aren't 2 years old.
Yeah.
Like I've been sober 2 years.
Yeah.
You're actually 8 years old, 10 years old. So but I found out if you shake somebody's hand and they like you, odds are you get the job.
Unless there's like, outside, higher ups that like it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Right, like legalities and things like that.
It's like little mom and pop shops will always look over it, but it's like, I gotta talk to my boss. Okay, I might not get the job because your boss is gonna say,
Put me in the room with your boss.
Have
you ever had anybody use your past against you?
Oh, gosh. I mean, not really. No, I don't really, the people I have in my life I never dream of it. So I haven't. I mean, if people that I don't know that aren't in my life are sitting around talking about my past, I mean, that's really on them. So, that says more about them than it does about me. So but not really in my life have I had that come up.
Well, now that we're getting close to the end of end of recovery court days, let's say, and getting more into where you are now, who's the most influential person in your life?
Just overall,
Yeah.
or oh gosh, through that process.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I mean, so Michelle Bauer is my best friend. Katrina Bowen, my other best friends. I'm blessed with two wonderful women in my life. They've been really, really influential. I started dating this amazing man, Patrick Wells. He is also very, very inspiring to me. Also in recovery, he's just a wonderful human being. And so those three folks definitely been the most prominent and most influential in my life.
I'm about to tag Katrina.
Great. I was so young, and so, I don't know. My memory is so good in some ways. I was in jail with Patrick. I know for 100% he won't remember me because I was just a little 18-year-old.
Yeah.
But I just remember him. I seen him on. I don't know. You guys share or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But I seen his face, and I was like,
Yeah.
I think I remember him. So that's great.
Nice.
That he didn't recover.
Yeah,
That's great.
he's doing really well.
And then going back to, I don't want to speak on anybody else's story, but one of the friends you said, I also remember going to recovery court with her, and
Okay.
that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Seeing her, she never, well, I don't know her story, but she's had of whatever, and she's done good. And as far as I know, she's stuck with the whole recovery court
Yeah.
thing. So I'm disappointed sometimes in myself seeing.
Ah.
Well, I know it happened.
Yeah,
but it's
we
like,
all have our own paths, right?
but it's cool that it come back, and it's like she never swayed away.
Yeah.
He never swayed. It's cool seeing some people are that steadfast.
Yeah, I mean, it
That's
takes
cool.
what it takes for everybody, but
Yeah.
it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now my favorite line is, if I knew that was my last day drinking, I would have drank longer. I know it's so bad to say, but I can never drink again. So
Yeah.
that's just what I tell people. That,
Yeah.
I would have known. I would have stayed up till 2.
Yeah.
So if you could have met younger you, like going through the process of recovery court and all of those things, would you think you guys would get along? Is there anything you would say to yourself?
Gosh. So I'm very like psychologically minded and philosophical, and I think I have a good, like a gift of like seeing to the heart of people and like what maybe is going, so seeing past the behaviors. And so I would have liked to have had a heart to heart with that young lady, younger lady. So 38 isn't that young, but younger me, I definitely would have tried to, connect, build some rapport with her, and see what I could find out and how I could encourage her to stay on track.
So clearly you look in shape. You are very well educated. So how do you juggle the mind, body, and spirit? Because it seems like
And
that's your thing.
maintain wellness without getting burned out.
That's not always easy. I am a human being, so I do get burnout. I work non-traditional hours sometimes. I, commute to Ypsilanti for that. I have friends and family that are important to me that I need to see. I do a lot of things for my adult children. They both live with me, so I'm there. I take them places. I do all of the things for them. I do work out. I mean, you just have to have your priorities, and then you have to and then too, you have to realize it's okay if something slips for a second. Just trying to get everything into balance as much as possible. Things are not going to be perfectly balanced, and that's okay. So showing yourself some grace and trying not to take it too seriously is very important. I will say one of the first things to go when I'm getting over burdens, I like to say yes to everything. I want to do all of the things. And so that's my downfall. And
You're
so
a people please.
that's still one of my lingering behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of those deep ones, but I'm working on it. I just try to, I try to keep it all in balance. I try to remind myself I was going to say one of the first things to go is always my self-care. So I stopped meditating a little bit, and then it will show up and I'm irritated. I am cussing at things that aren't alive. I dropped a cup, and so I'm cussing the cup out, those kinds of things. I'm like, oh yeah, I better get it together. Time to take some time for me. Yeah.
So you'd say it's more about a harmony instead of a balance, things working together.
Yeah.
What is your favorite way to do self-care other than the meditating things you mentioned?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm also a painter, so I love to paint. I am an acrylic artist, so that is something that I really, really love to do. I also like to write, from time to time. So just kind of artistic modalities kind of help me come back to center outside of the meditation and mindfulness and stuff.
Do you have a muse, an inspiration that you kind of use for that creative space?
I wouldn't say amused. It's more of just like an energy. I didn't start painting until I got into recovery, so I didn't even know I wanted to paint or could paint. But I was at my second treatment center at Hope House.
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, loved it. I mean, it was amazing the way things work. I mean, the universe is beautiful. So at Glass House, I got a lot of like the educational pieces. Not that I didn't get that at Hope House, but it was more educational, more structure. And then at Hope House, it was like you were able to like explore your spirituality. I learned about DBT, which was an amazing thing. There's like one mindfulness in that, and I had already started meditating and practicing mindfulness, like even at the end of my addiction. So it just the two of those. Being at both of those places just really so at the letter at Hope House we did a lot of painting and like extracurriculars like that, and so that's when I really said that was the first time I really had painted, I think since probably elementary school, and so that's when I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I think maybe I want to continue to do that, and so I bought some paints and stuff like that when I was able to come home and afford things like that. Yeah. So that's how that happened.
So I know it's more of a person-to-person basis on what would be more helpful, educational, or the second.
The spiritual aspect.
Which one do you think helped you more?
The spiritual aspect, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think, just for me, that's what I resonate with more. And so I think that's why I would say that.
Awesome. That would hit me more. Structure is cool and education is cool, but the being part of it is more helpful for me.
I think for me, it's mainly the educational piece. But like if I'm struggling, I cannot do creative.
Yeah.
I cannot. Where I'm doing, and then sometimes when I'm doing really well, I can't do creative. It's like if I'm like about to hit rock bottom, creative works. But it's more of like an outlet than it is like care. Like it's like just like vomiting my feelings on paper.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think it's interesting because I'm a very creative person, but like the educational piece, I'm also very analytical.
Yeah.
So like brains are funny,
Yeah.
Have you mentioned DBT? Have you used like CBT? Any other types of therapy?
Yeah. So CBT and DBT were absolutely like instrumental in the skills that I learned through both of those, along with the meditation and mindfulness. So those four things like really kind of solidified like what I needed to know and how to take care of me and like how to like find that self-awareness and self-discovery and to like really find out who I am. Because I think a lot of times when we are out there and we're using substances, we do not know who we are. We started using really, really young. We did not explore who we are. We don't know what we value. We don't know all of these things that are important to like being an actualized human being. And so we're just kind of lost. And so all of those things together just kind of really helped me get that self-awareness. And it's a continuous process. I mean, I still use, a lot of those skills and still meditating, not as much as I should, that balance, that harmony. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that help me the most.
Well, just going through, trying to stay with the story just so we understand, I understand, the guests understand. So go to Glass House, go to Hope House, in recovery court, you failed. If you want to talk about that, we can. But what comes after the 5 months in jail?
Sure. Okay. So I get out. I have no idea where I'm going to live. My daughter is staying with my mother and my stepdad. My stepdad is not wanting me to come back there. He wants me to prove some things first, which is absolutely understandable. Mad at him at the time because, you know what I mean? It's really mad at him at the time, but they are keeping my daughter. And so that's good. I stayed, a little bit while I figured it out with my son and his roommate at the time. And then I stayed with my cousin John for a little bit, and then my friend Michelle was allowing me to come out and stay at her house out in Leslie. So I lived with her until I actually stayed with Patrick too a little bit during that time. But so I had a place. So I had the stability. Then I got a job at Hope House as a resident aide after I had that year. So that's where my entry into working into the substance use disorder field came. So that's a little bit about what it looked like. My first job though was really brief at Polly's as a cashier. And so I worked there for a little bit, and then I got a call from Michelle Shorthouse I don't know if that's still her last name, but she works out at Hope House, and she was like, "Hey, I'm a true recovery tech," because I definitely kept calling them and showing interest in wanting to work there. So she's like, they needed someone to come work, and so I think I was at Polly's like 3 weeks maybe. And then I went out to work at Hope House. And I mean, the rest is history, as they say.
Were you aware about the lived experience jobs before this?
I kind of, yes and no. So kind of through the process of being involved at Home and New Vision in the recovery community. So I knew about recovery coaches, and being in treatment centers, you realize that those are your peers, right? They talk about it. So that's where my first like realization of like, that our experience is helpful to folks. And so, I had a recovery coach when I was at Hope House, and before that, like, so a lot of the RAs or the people that would teach, they also were in recovery. So I did notice that was something that was a thing for those positions.
Was this always your plan to go into the recovery community or recovery field, or did you have other plans to get out of jail and start getting sober?
So yeah, when I was at Hope House, I knew I wanted to go back there and work. So that was kind of a plan.
That's cool.
And then I actually did it, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And it felt good to be able to do that, to get back to a place that gave me so much. So yeah.
And set a goal and accomplishing it too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I mean, I really, and I shared with you that I didn't work most of my life. My ex-husband, he was the financial provider. I was the stay-at-home mom. I mean, I really had a lot of doubts. I remember talking to my friend Michelle, like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how, like, I don't know what that looks like. When we don't know what something looks like, it's very overwhelming. It's very scary. Like, can I do this? Can I get my own place? Can I, make enough money? Like, what does that even look like? So I had a lot of doubts, but so yeah, it was really, really fulfilling.
Cool.
Like being able to realize that goal for sure.
Well, especially early in recovery, and that's a big win. But little wins are like, it's life changing, but that's a big win.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you touch on a little bit of, because I also was in services and then became like provider.
Mm-hmm.
So is there like anything that you like memorable experiences, challenges you faced going from being in the services and in the community as like a recipient and then moving on to like actually helping people?
Like challenges like how?
Like personal struggles, maybe like adjusting your thinking to the field.
Sure. Yeah. So people pleaser. So when I was at Hope House, you get and being an RA, you get close with the girls, right? And so then you kind of have your favorites, and then you kind of get manipulated a little bit. So like handing out an extra cigarette on smoke break, or just those little things like that really I had to like create better boundaries.
Right. Yes.
So those were some of the struggles at first, like going from like one of the girls to like, I work here now and I have to set a good example, and we have to follow rules of structure and rules for a reason. So that was kind of like, but they were really, really like, I talked to my bosses about it. And so they were just really helpful. You know what I mean? They weren't like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. You know what I mean? So it was not anything like crazy, but just little things like that. I think were like tough to like switch from one side of things to the other.
Right. Yeah. Like the boundaries, I think, is the biggest thing for a lot of people. And then like, literally the switch of like, well, these are my people, but like now they're still your people, just in a different like power dynamic, I guess.
Yeah. So it is very, very weird, and I often like still like there are times where I still like imposter syndrome is huge for me.
Oh
so,
yeah. I feel that with my whole soul.
So first year in recovery, or first year back out of jail in recovery, you worked 3 weeks at Polly's. For me personally, because I was trying to relate, not compare. First year for me, I would not be able to sell booze. So how was it scanning booze or stuff of that nature?
I mean, I didn't struggle with that. I don't know. I think really I had such profound like paradigm shifts, and so my mindset had changed so much that it really wasn't like, didn't bother me. Now I wouldn't have at that time wanted to like go to a bar per se, and like, you know what I mean? And I still stayed away from even family that like drank a lot. It took me a while to like feel like, okay, I'd be fine now. So I was very careful about that, but the just scanning it, at Polly's wasn't a big deal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it takes a year to go to Hope House, year recovery, sober.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been sober now, if you don't mind me asking?
Gosh, October I think will be 6 years.
Congratulations. You just trying to understand the timeline.
Yeah.
So we go to work at the Hope House. How long did you work there?
I worked there for a little over a year, and I left there when I got another job at, I actually was going to work at Lifeways, but then I also had interviewed. So when I apply for jobs, I apply for several of them, and and so then I accepted the job offer at Lifeways, but then I had also gotten the job offer from Family Service and Children's Aid. And so I went there and worked as their enhanced peer advocate for women's specialty.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was. I stayed there for about 5 months.
Cool.
And I left there and went to Unified in Ypsilanti as a harm reduction case manager.
Cool.
That was my entry into harm reduction, and I fell absolutely in love with the philosophy, with the practice. So that's what started harm reduction for me.
So we know what harm reduction is, but maybe other people don't. Want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. Harm reduction is a lot of things. It is so it involves showing up for people who are still actively using, and providing education to empower them to make more informed choices about their substance use, offering them alternatives to routes of administration, offering them education on overdose, ways to test their substances for overdose. Ways to obviously bring them back from an overdose. Just a lot of education, a lot of public health tools, things like that, so that they can stay safe while they're still using.
So going through your story, I think it's important, and maybe it's my OCD, but what is your least favorite memory of working at the house?
Gosh. Yeah, well, okay. So we would be severely understaffed a lot. And so my friend Veronica and I worked out there together, and we would often just take on that burden of okay, we're working swing shifts. My least favorite memory would probably be when I had to work my second shift and then train somebody on third shift. And I had a morning group. I was a group facilitator as well. So then I slept in my office on those days, and then I would do the morning group and then drive back to Jackson.
What was your favorite memory of the Hope House?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that place. Gosh, I don't even know. I mean, just the time with the girls, getting to from day one, they're coming in, they're a mess, they're scared, they're angry, they're sick, just all of the things, right? And just by day 80, 90, when they're getting ready to leave, just the change. And getting to work with them one-on-one. I also became a recovery coach when I was there. So getting to work with them one-on-one, getting to teach them about meditation in groups. I taught meditation, mindfulness. I facilitated those groups. So, those are some of my favorite memories. Definitely some of my favorite times.
So it's a thing that happens in the field, you talk about re-traumatization. Has there ever been, any of the jobs that you worked early on where you came across a situation that was your empathy was a little too much, you had to rein it back, or it was it triggered you or re-traumatized you?
It's too close to home.
Right. The caregiver burnout, but not necessarily that.
Sure. I can't think of any specific situation, but it's always that sore getting ready to be picked back open, right? When you're seeing someone struggle so much, and you can see, that despair and that hurt and that fear, it's really tough, and because you've been there, and so you completely identify with that, and so you have to be really careful to not over identify and to not fall into that. Otherwise it can be very burdensome. If I said I don't suffer from secondary trauma, I would be lying. It happens, especially working in harm reduction. It can be very daunting, but just being very careful, making sure you do have that support system, making sure you are engaging in self-care, and just trying to stay a little removed from it, and realizing you can't save people. They essentially you can help, you can be there, you can show up for them repeatedly, but you're not going to be the one to save them, right?
Most addicts can relate with each other. It's hard when you find the story that's my story.
Yeah.
That's the hardest for me. It's I can relate to what you say. I can relate to what most people. There's some stories that I'm that's me in a different timeline.
Sure.
That's me. That's the same person.
Yeah.
That's hard to handle. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
if you're faced with that situation, how do you implement the boundaries? How do you walk away? How do you set it up to where you're I'm going to protect myself from this? Maybe I can come back at a later moment, but right now I just need that space to kind of separate.
Well, so now I do a lot of outreach. I don't spend a lot of one-on-one time with participants, but so in Hope House, let's say there, or when I was recovery coaching at Family Service and Children's Aid, just really not sharing too much of your story, not oversharing, so that person can see you as your role, which sounds, I don't love that all the time, but just so there's no blurred lines
Yeah.
and that you're not getting too close. And that's how to keep that boundary up, both for yourself and for the person that you're helping. Because if those lines are blurred, you're not going to be much help to them. They're going to see you in a different light. It's, so you're just really careful. There's always that little line that you want to have balance on, of like how much to share, how much not to share. And then just debrief with somebody. I had wonderful coworkers at Family Service and Children's Aid and at Hope House. So if things were getting a little, wiry for me, like, I needed to talk, I always had those folks that I could turn to and talk
That
to.
is probably my favorite part, is the debriefing piece.
Yeah.
We get to all talk and support each other.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I am a little forgetful because you just said it. What came after Home House?
Family Service and
Family
Children's
Service
Aid.
and
Yeah.
Children Aid.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your favorite memory of that? And then this is more me talking more than a question. How was it working with children? Like, because
So I didn't work with the children.
okay,
So I was women's specialty. I would work with women and or men that had substance use disorder and were at risk of losing their children or had lost their children and working on reunification. And so that kind of process. So I would recovery coach them. I would work with with their therapist, and we would kind of like tag team that situation, because they would obviously like say things to me that they wouldn't say to their therapist, and that sort of thing. And so that was really like the teamwork at Family Service and Children's. It was really a team effort, and we would meet as a team, and we would all like, just give our ideas and how to best help this person. And so that was really a good memory from there.
hard to handle with children involved though. So like you're coaching this guy that is like, it's almost like I don't think they're relying on you, but it's like they need this to work to get their kid back. It has to be hard.
Yeah, it's really tough situation, because as a mother,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
that starts pulling at your heartstrings, like you just, and a person with substance use disorder. So it's like twofold, right? I have children. I also understand what addiction is like personally. And so, I never did have any jeopardy of losing my children. So I couldn't identify there, but just you could imagine, and so that really is really, really hard. Really hard to think about. So it did feel very intense, like, but you just have to realize, like, you are not, like I said, you're not responsible. You can't say that. You can offer them the skills that you're offering them. They're going to do what they're going to do regardless. We have no control in anyone else's life.
Was there ever any, I'm just going to say, was there ever anybody that you thought maybe they should not get their kids back? Did that arise a lot?
I would never have
Wonderful.
that judgment. I would
Personal
never.
judgment
Yeah,
bias.
I would absolutely never do that. Yeah.
Okay. No, I was just curious because
Yeah, I think there's just too much, going on in any person's life at any given time. I would never want to be a judge. I would never want to be a person that, I don't know how judges do it, because there's no way.
that's
So
why
kind
I
of
was kind of asking.
Piggybacking off that, how do you deal with people who were feisty and non-compliant?
So, gosh, at Hope House, I would have like they'd be having a rough day, or they would, feel a little entitled, or, I would just, I'm going to handle them the same way. I'm going to be kind of stern. I'm going to, these are the rules, what I mean? And I'm sorry about that. You knew that before, X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And so just trying to handle it like that, it can be tough. You do feel like a jerk sometimes, but they're in place for a reason. Like, I needed those rules. I needed that structure. So I know like how much that helped me. And so just trying to continue to give that forward to folks that might be in those situations. But I will say I loved to de-escalate, situations, because some folks would come in, they have a lot of anger, you might be in there with something that you knew from the streets. And so there might have been some animosity. And so some things might, pop up. And so that was one of my favorite things, to be able to like mediate and mitigate the risk there.
Well, you have a very commanding presence. So
thanks.
Really.
Good energy.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
energy, very
Thank
good
you.
energy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So just go right down the line. What comes after? You said, and I'm forgetful.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I kind of blurted all it. So Family Service and Children's Aid, I left there and went to Unified HIV Health and Beyond, and became
Cool.
I became a harm reduction case manager there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
So like steady moving up. Like kind of moving up in roles. Like,
Sure. Well, yeah, it just was a switch in roles. It was actually about, more money for me at that point. Like, I wanted to stay in the same arena, but I needed more money just to afford my life. And so this job was quite a bit more money. So I was like, I'm commuting to Ypsilanti. And so that's how that happened. And that, like I said, was my first introduction to harm reduction, which just really took me by surprise how much I loved it. And
we are all for it, you know, the marijuana maintenance, though, just whatever, just, we're all for that.
Well,
So
even like sensory harm reduction as well, like I'm all about that.
my mind just goes straight to that one. I
Yeah,
know there's
sure.
a lot of harm
Harm
reduction.
reduction,
but my
I mean,
mind
you
goes
can
right
practice harm reduction in anybody's life, people with that, you know, just harm reduction is like, how can we reduce any kind of like harm that you might, you know, incur when you're doing anything. And so in the broader sense, but, you know, obviously I do that in the sense of like, with substance.
It could be as simple as setting boundaries,
Yeah.
like really. That's personally how I feel about it anyways.
Yeah.
I did have kind of like an off the wall question. I'm trying to figure out how to like phrase it. So people who have co-occurring and they have a history of substance use and then they also have the mental health issues. Is there like a way to be re-traumatized because of like medications and needing to be in compliance with like the court saying they need to be medicated, but they're also
Question, 'cause
like a
they took
substance
me off
user?
all my meds, which was beneficial, but sometimes not beneficial. That's a good
Sure.
question.
I mean, I do. So I would have to think back to like Hope House days and stuff like that. I think, you know, there is always a little concern with some, I'm not always, but like with some folks, they are concerned about that. And so I think, you know, I think it's a very valid concern, but I think, you know, I would just try to talk to those folks about like this medication is it's for your safety. This is a medication that you're taking for the right reason, you know, and so just really trying to talk them through that. And then obviously, you know, they would also speak with a counselor because I'm not a licensed therapist.
Right.
So in a way that I could non-therapeutically,
Right,
you know,
through
help them
lived experience.
non-clinically, like, hey, you know,
Yeah.
let's reframe how we're, you know, thought reframing. Let's reframe how we're thinking about this medication. Not all medications are harmful. Not all
Yeah.
medications are addictive. Some of them are actually truly to help. So
I just know some people who won't even take a Tylenol because
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I steer away from it just because I really just don't like pharmaceuticals now. And so, I mean, I take supplements, you know, but I try not to take, you know, over the counter medications. I do occasionally. It's not as severe as it used to be. So I did a little bit myself go through that. Like, I don't even want to take a Tylenol, but I think I had a lot of anger towards like, you know, pharmaceutical companies and stuff. So, which I still do because
I think it's justified. That's just my opinion.
Right.
It's kind of funny that they asked that question because in the midst of it, I'm like, I need my meds. I'm going into recovery court. I was on like Xanax and Ritalin. I did not need my meds. You know,
I want my meds.
I don't.
I want your meds too. It's what you need.
You stop.
No, nobody wants to do it. Like, you don't need it. Like, I need them.
But we really believe that in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were so effing serious.
Or like the whole magic pill where like the pill fixes everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
there's more work. I mean,
Yeah.
good for you. That helped a lot.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
more work.
There is absolutely work. I mean, you know, that's the thing with Western medicine, right? We treat the symptoms. And so the work really lies with the person doing that in the internal work and working with the therapist. And so, yeah.
So after Unified, Unified.
Yes.
Okay. Where are you now? Is from Unified? Is that where you are now, or is there another stepping stone?
It's kind of a mess right there. So, so I go from Unified as the harm reduction case manager to Home and New Vision in Jackson.
Cool.
To they had just gotten Jackson harm reduction.
Oh,
So
cool.
They had just gotten that. So I'm there for 2 months. While I'm there, I'm, you know, getting that program going, you know, with Home and New Vision, bringing it on as theirs. Then Unified calls me to come back there and manage their harm reduction program. And so I said yes, because it was a ton more money.
Yeah.
And it, I'm human.
I get it.
So I pay bills and I like to buy stuff.
Yep.
So, so I
Yeah.
went back up there to do that. I did that for about a year. They ended up letting me go. They went through a merger. Everyone lost their jobs.
Gotcha.
I, from there, went and worked at Avalon Housing in Ann Arbor as a support coordinator for adult services there. And so I did that for about 10 months. And then Glennis Anderson gave me a call from Home and New Vision and said, hey, I got this harm reduction grant. Would you like to come manage this program for me in Ypsilanti?
Awesome.
And I said, absolutely. yeah, couldn't wait.
You've just always been of service. It sounds like
Yeah,
since you
yeah.
got sober. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never heard you sway away from
Well,
being the people.
I can't imagine doing anything else. Like, you know, we need people to do all of the things that they do, but I couldn't imagine just like making hot dogs or like making parts or like, to me, helping other human beings is just really the most fulfilling thing. I couldn't imagine not doing it.
It's a whole different side to like the service industry.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
need those services. I need a waitress. I love to go out to eat. I need all of the things that all the humans do. But for me, I don't think I could do it. It wouldn't be fulfilling, you know? There'd be something
so
missing.
a
Well,
little
and you're
bit.
still a server. I mean, you're still a server, just serving
Yeah.
different types of serving home.
A
Yeah.
little bit of
There
a
you go.
political question, opinions aside.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the current political climate and the fear and the companies being gutted when there's services that people really need?
I feel when you no, I feel like I know that our economy needs some adjusting.
Mhm.
I think the way that our current administration is going about it is not the best way.
Mhm.
Again, I am not a political person.
Yeah.
Nobody cares what Melinda thinks. But as
We
a
do.
person, okay, thank you so
Yeah.
much. President Trump does not.
Yeah.
As a person seeing firsthand, Home Division lost their engagement center in
Yeah.
Ypsilanti. That's been very hard for a lot of folks.
Mhm.
So I see firsthand what that's doing to folks. People who are experiencing homelessness, people who don't know where to go when now they need to escape a situation. They want to get somewhere quickly.
Yep.
They've used recently and they want to get connected to treatment. Where do they go now?
Yeah.
And so, I hate what it's doing. I think that there was a better way that could have been done. That maybe scaling back, maybe giving people a heads up, like, hey, in 6 months this is going to go away. So what are you going to do about it in the meantime? Would have gave people, but just to get a stop work immediately, order is insane. So I don't agree with it. I think that it was awful. I think a lot of people are suffering now, and it is scary that more things could happen. You just don't know, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're at now.
There was just no other way to word the question besides it being political, unfortunately, even though we stay away from it. But we've also seen it firsthand. My friend Chris Cooley, he lost his job just like that. Boom, lost it. And he's not even in Michigan. He's in Kentucky. So it shows me that it's affecting everybody. I mean, because the people, they don't see it right in front of them. It's not real mentality. But I'm seeing it around everywhere. And unfortunately, it has to be a political question because that's just why it's happening. It just is. So
that, and I believe stigma plays a huge part in people supporting or not supporting it. People don't understand what they don't experience, which is why roles like that are so important because I have experienced this. I can help you through it. And then when there's no funding left, it's like, how do you continue to do that and maintain your livelihood?
And then the whole argument of if it's a disease or if it's not a disease and all this stuff, people just need help.
It doesn't matter. You're arguing about the wrong thing. A human being is dying and they need help, right? A human being is suffering and they need help. That is really the base, what is going on, right?
I don't care.
I don't care what you think about it, right? I don't look at it as a disease. You do, who cares, right? It doesn't matter. The human needs help.
It doesn't matter if it's insulin or if it's Narcan. It honestly doesn't.
People get caught up in so many of the things that don't matter. It's just, it takes away from the matter.
Yes,
I agree
completely. So flop around a little bit. Goodly. No, I mean, good. I mean, you can never be mad at somebody for taking more money and bettering themselves.
Right.
And it's not like you stayed in the same profession. So it's not like, oh, I took more money helping cats or whatever. So good for you. So I guess now what are you doing now?
So now I manage a harm reduction program in Ypsilanti for Home Division.
Awesome. Awesome. When did you just said you started that a couple months ago?
I started that in October, so the beginning of the fiscal year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of that currently?
My favorite part and the part that stresses me out the most is it was a brand new program, and so I had to develop that program. I have to implement. Yeah, it's real cool. It's really, It is. I said I'm just being funny.
Yeah.
It is really cool. It is a lot of stress. So you have to get your name out there. You have to let people know what you're doing, and you're doing that in a community of folks that are not trusting. For one thing, I'm tied to a treatment center doing harm reduction, and so that looks a little bit differently than an aid service organization doing harm reduction or just a standalone harm reduction. And so Home New Vision is a wonderful treatment center. I think, people either like treatment centers or they don't like treatment centers. It's, so there's a lot going on with building that rapport, building trust within the community.
I was just going to ask you how you do that.
Yeah. So it's just a lot of boots on the ground. It's a lot of getting in the community. It's a lot of just showing up, consistency, just being there for the folks, letting them see who you are, what you're about, and consistently doing it, and showing up for them and seeing how you can help them and showing them that you will. And it takes time.
Yeah.
That's really it. So great and stressful.
Yeah. Well, your story has been very impactful in a lot of ways. Seriously, seeing from going from the start of people's stories always impressed me to where they are now, because it's like me 2 years ago, I'm like, I'll be a nobody. And just speaking on myself,
Sure.
like, I'm never going to be nothing. And then
Yeah.
it's like, you buy a house and life starts
Yeah.
going, moving forward, and you're like, wow.
Surprise yourself
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
And then we do have that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like, really? This is my life?
Well, then
Yeah.
also, like, how do you feel about like manifestation and positive affirmation?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So yes, all of that. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think it's very, very spiritual. So I think it's very important to try to keep yourself at the right vibration, to really try to think as positive as you can. And I mean, we do have that duality. So definitely there are darker sides to us. We do have like that shadow side. We do need to do that inner work. And so just really trying to, I really try to embrace that side and like show love and compassion to those things. So the things that I normally would be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to look at that. That's horrible. I don't do that. The things you wouldn't share with anybody, just trying to really show up for your inner child and show up for those little hidden secrets inside of you that like just want to be loved and want, the compassion. So I think that's very important. I think that goes a long way in like creating the life that you want to live, because if you're not accepting yourself, no one else is going to accept you either.
Yeah.
And that's subconscious, right?
Yeah.
That's subconsciously. They don't even know that, right?
So you kind of hinted at it. Do you do shadow work?
I do shadow work.
I dabble a little bit, but some of it scares me because of the trauma and
Yeah,
the
sure. And
things.
that's valid.
it's very inner.
Mhm.
That's why I started, like I said, with the EMDR.
Yeah.
To be able to possibly go that. But I love it. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I've read a lot about it. Has it been beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of inner child work and a lot of, shadow work. I think it's just super important to look at those things and to show those pieces, the love and compassion and the attention that it needs. I think if you don't, it shows up in a lot of different ways in your life that can kind of get things out of control.
Yes.
Is there anything that we missed that you would like to share?
I don't think so. We're pretty comprehensive today.
Is there any like shout outs or tidbits of information, any advice you'd give to people that you'd really
Oh
like
my
to share?
gosh. I mean, I would say, people going into recovery, it's scary and it's exciting, right? Once you are over your withdrawals and once you are like, you're trying to figure things out, I think just keep diving deep, like figure out who you are, figure out what you like, what you don't like, what you value, like what's important to you. And then every day, like take small steps towards creating the life that you want to live, a life you don't want to escape from. You really can do or be anything. You really can.
Yeah.
I thought I liked fishing until I got sober.
He just like having a buzz.
Yeah. What's your definition of success?
Gosh, I mean, that's very personal, right? Whatever that looks like for you. If you are happy with your life, if you're happy with the people in your life, if you're I mean, if it's money for you, then it's money. Like figure that out. If it's, if it's having a family, then figure that out. I mean, success looks different for everybody. So I don't have a clear definition of it. So whatever is making you happy, whatever is making you want to wake up every day and do that thing, then that's it. You're successful.
I agree.
If you could use one word to sum up your entire journey from where you started until where you think you will end up, what would the one word be? And it has to be one word.
Oh my gosh, where I think I will end up.
Yes, where you think like you hope you will end.
I have to use one word to describe it.
Yep, one word.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Okay.
Okay. What are you doing? What are
I
you
get
doing?
the Facebook there. I just typed it in. Sorry, give me one second. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I got it.
Thank you. Okay.
I love the teamwork.
Thanks. There.
Yeah. So this week, thank you for coming on, of course.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all of that. So this week, we got you a gift card from the Blue Julep.
Julep.
I was trying
I
to
got
find
you.
the about info. Their about info is literally it's a cupcake shop.
You
So
have
that's what it says.
you
But,
have their gift card.
but,
or their-
but it's located downtown. It's kind of right by the Chase and the Dirty,
I'm
but I'm
excited.
sure you know where it is.
Yeah.
But there's a gift card in there along with the red velvet
I'm
cupcake.
excited.
Yeah.
Good thing I'm out of bulk. I will eat that cupcake.
Yeah. So it's $25 and then it's a red velvet cupcake.
Okay,
So
perfect. Thank you so much.
of course, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
And
Hold on. I found it. They have a website on Facebook. Sorry. They said that they offer specialty cakes, gourmet cupcakes, and unique dessert buffets for any events from tarts, cakes, cakes, cupcakes, cookies, all desserts are made to order.
Ooh.
Their hours kind of vary Tuesday through Thursday, like 11 to 3, Friday 11 to 5, Saturday 10 to 1. It's actually really cute in there too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check it out. I'm excited.
Yeah, so thank you again
Yeah,
for
for
that.
sure.
As
Thank you so
we're
much.
logging off, I was
Nice to
hoping
meet
you
you.
sign our table.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
It is
thank
treasure, so
Absolutely.
I fling it
Cool,
all the
thank
time.
you, thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Just anywhere?
Anything you want.
Yep, and as big or as little as you want, everybody does it a little different.